Hey guys, so a dog returns to its vomit just as a fool returns to his folly. They are back again, the Salvation Army. This time, not with a Christmas card that doesn't have Jesus' name in it. Because cast your memory back a year ago, I did a video that, to my astonishment, hit 21,000 views. Because people shared sentiment just like mine, in the sense that Salvation Army have completely forgotten their whole mission and their whole purpose of serving the Lord Jesus Christ. And I hate to say it, guys, it doesn't look like they've improved. If anything, it's got even worse. So I'm gonna open this letter. I mean, it really got my attention as soon as I picked it up. I mean, homeless Dan. He happens to share the same name as me. Is that a coincidence? Put it in your comments, guys, if you too have got a letter with homeless Dan on it, or are they sort of tailor-making it down to who the recipient is? You know, maybe Jessica's getting one with Jessica on it. Maybe Jimmy's getting one with Jimmy on it. I don't know. So I opened the letter, and as always, Salvation Army, you know, they always sort of present you with a kind of charming greet. You know, we come here with no harm, guys. You know. We're just here to look after poor souls. So yeah, so bold red letters. No one cares for homeless people like the Salvation Army. So that they really don't mess about. Talk about modesty, but hey, we'll let that slide. And it says, please send just £9 this Christmas to give us someone like Dan the help they desperately need. So no sort of like slow, subtle, sort of get you on side, you know, give you a few like sentimental stories just to get you going, you know. They just go straight in, we want £9, guys. And then you straight away think, oh, £9, is it easy as that? I just put £9 in. I'd like to know where the money goes. But they do, to their credit, they go on to explain exactly what they intend to do with your generosity. So it starts the letter with, dear friend, winter is terrible time to be homeless with its bitterly cold temperatures, winds, rains and snow. Some rough sleepers actually die on the streets or come very close to death during the winter months. Okay, so that's an appeal to, you know, the fear of, yeah, people are at risk. And, you know, it's the festive season and no one wants that. So, you know, especially if it was to happen close to home. Friends and family, I mean, it's unthinkable, you know, and I get that, you know, they want to go in hard with the impact, just to sort of like grab people's attention, which they've done. They've got my attention. I was going to throw this straight in the bin. But what really stood out for me, guys, so they start off with obviously the history of the Salvation Army. And they start in the mid 19th century. You know, they're a long, flourishing, established missionary organisation. Firstly, they are a church, and it says that in their letter. So they don't disguise in being a church, and that's why people like me, a Christian commentator, is going to write on this. So they're down as a Christian church and registered charity. So obviously they're down as both. This paragraph straight away hit me. Okay, it said, our aim is not just to provide food, shelter and warmth, but to work with people experiencing homelessness, to help them overcome their problem and get back on their feet. Whatever the reason why they become homeless, we offer relevant, practical help. Okay, that's really good. But this is where it gets interesting. Such as access to medical treatment, housing advice, money, management advice, and life skills training. We want to help people chart their own course for a new and better life. Okay, that's interesting, because I always thought they were a charity, and with their money, it goes directly to the service user. So I thought maybe they would have their own hostels or their own cafes where they can give people food. And it would be sort of grassroots, helping people out hand to mouth. Well, apparently not. It seems to me that they're more interested in getting people training events and things like that. Like medical treatment and housing advice. Well, medical treatment's the NHS. Us taxpayers pay for that. Housing advice, I'm guessing, would be to get on the housing register, so people can receive welfare funds. As we see later in the letter, it does actually say the way they resolved Dan's issue of homelessness, which we're going to go and talk about later, they said they registered him with the council. So that's the final aim for these guys. It's not to accommodate them with your money. It's actually to get them on the council list. So I did find that precarious, but it's not until you read the whole 2 letters until you get things in context. And it was quite startling, to be honest. I mean, this guy, Dan, I mean, he's in this, again, I'll show you him, he's here. I don't know if that is real 45-year-old Dan. Happens to be just a few years older than me. Again, is it custom made? I don't know. So Dan was in a series of misfortunes. He ended up becoming basically homeless due to the fact that his young son died of meningitis, which is very, very sad. It caused a mental health breakdown. He ended up losing his business, which was basically a window cleaner. I happen to be a self-employed businessman as well, of the blue colour ilk. I'm actually a gardener. Coincidence? I don't know. This guy's very similar to me. In fact, I was homeless myself 7 years ago, many moons ago. Anyway, so I went on to talk about this guy, and he lived in squalor, and it wasn't till the Salvation Army intervened and gave him his life-saving help. And I had to bracket this bit, and it says, Dan couldn't believe it when Salvation Army officer Major Heather turned up with packets of sandwiches and flasks of soup. She didn't rush away, but sat down to have a chat with him, hear his story, and offer him help. So they've made it personal, and they've mentioned a woman's name. Now, it would be interesting to know if this woman actually exists, but Heather's quite a common name, so there are probably a lot of Heathers that work for the Salvation Army. But what struck me is, doesn't it say in the Bible not to let the right hand know what the left hand is doing? Aren't we meant to give quietly? You know, they talk about the widow's mite, you know, that old lady who doesn't have a name in the parable, who gave pretty much everything she had. And it was her anonymity, which really clarified the immodesty of her actions, you know, the fact that she was just an ordinary, run-of-the-mill, poor old woman, poor old widow, might add, that really sort of gave everything she had. And I just find it odd that, you know, they're mentioning names. I'm not sure if that's classy, you know, if they call themselves a Christian organisation. It's, I find that quite distasteful. And it goes on to say that at the Salvation Army, Dan found a whole community of people who cared about him. One of his most prized possessions is a scarf that one of our kind Salvation Army members knitted for him. For him, it's a cherished sign that he is alone, not alone anymore. Why not give him a Bible? Why not give him something with substance, you know? Because in Jesus Christ, we're not alone. You know, isn't he the truth, the light, and the way? Isn't he the only way to the Father? Didn't Christ, in his own words, say, before he, I am? I just find it odd that, you know, that's overlooked with the Salvation Army, and they're just trying to play on those heartstrings, those secular heartstrings, because let's be honest, a lot of people don't really care about Jesus Christ these days, you know. But if they hear about this wonderful scarf, this hand knitted scarf, you know, it plays on heartstrings, doesn't it? But did Dan really salvage this scarf and keep it as a token of Salvation Army's generosity? Or is it just something that they've just added to get you attached? I don't know. It goes on to say, this year Dan will be spending a happy Christmas at the Salvation Army Residential Centre, where there'll be plenty to celebrate, including the company of friends. He's really looking forward to it. Yeah, it's interesting they've added that in, because that's what they want money for. You know, when you read, for example, it basically says that £45 could provide a Christmas dinner and a promise of companionship for 5 lonely people. So maybe Dan's one of those 5 lonely people that get a Christmas dinner. Just a thought, guys, just a thought. And there we are. Got a £9 as well, and a £19. So there's different price structures depending on what you can afford. The £9 would contribute to one-to-one support for a homeless person in one of our centres. So you're not going by volunteers then, Salvation Army. You're not going by missionaries that do it out of the goodness of their heart. Because isn't that how the Wesleyan Holiness movement started? Wasn't it about love being the centre of holiness and sanctification? You know, wasn't it the life of works in action, love in action, generosity, philanthropy? Weren't they the driving force and the main means of grace in which we pursue to become entirely sanctified in holiness? I'm pretty sure that's what Wesley taught, and I'm pretty sure William Booth, jumped on board with when he started the Salvation Army, because he was Wesleyan. He was a Methodist minister, and that is meant to be the bedrock of the Salvation Army. You know, this whole doing works for the grace of God, because of the grace of God, you know. But no, it's apparently we have to pay these people, and that's where your money goes. It's not going to the hands of those who need it. It's actually going to the workers for profit. I don't know, I just find that a little bit distasteful. Anyway, so I go on to read a little bit more, and it brings in, very interestingly, probably the only remotely biblical thing in the whole 4 A4 bits of paper, is they mention the Good Samaritan. You know, a passing stranger who helps someone who has been left on a highway to die. Could you be a good-hearted person just like the Good Samaritan? And I think to myself, that's lovely. But where's the biblical passage? Where is the biblical passage? Where is the mention of the fact that these words were spoken by Jesus Christ himself? Nowhere to be seen, guys. Nowhere to be seen. You know, I thought there might be a slimmer of hope in that one. But nope, not there. How disappointing. And we go on to read until the finale, the last bit of the letter. It says, thousands of people who have been homeless will echo Dan's word. If it wasn't for the Salvation Army, I don't know where I'd be now. Yeah, so you want to take the whole credit, yeah? Salvation Army. I thought the whole point of 1 Corinthians 13, love, faith and hope, right? And the biggest of those virtues is love, and that abides in all of us. And I always thought, surely those infused righteousness that are imputed on by God and imparted for our journey of sanctification is God-given. So in other words, guys, any blessing we receive from God, anything good, we have to give him the full credit and the glory. It's no brand, it's no institution, it's no charity, it's him. Salvation Army don't want you to do that. They don't want you to give him the glory. They want to take all the glory for themselves. And the more I read about this, the more I think this is just commercial dripe. It's just a way to push people to loosen their purse strings. I mean, I just don't see how this letter has any Christian ethos to it. I can't see it. I'm reading through it and I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I just can't see it. It's quite sad, you know, and the letter finishes off with, may God bless you for your warm-hearted generosity, and may your Christmas be all the happier for the kindness you've shown to others. Yours faithfully, Nick Lieutenant Coke. It's not changed, guys. So it's still Lieutenant Nick Coke running the show. That's not changed. And it's still the same old jargon. Who's God? How can I relate to this? How can I be saved? You know, it's all well and good saying, yeah, people need money, they need food, they need compassion. But where is the root of that? The root of that is Jesus Christ. And that's why they're in the position they are in the first place. Because many of these people have been destitute to the word of God. You know, they've been harbouring Adam's guilt. They've been toiling along, you know, unsusceptibly, not knowing the gospel. And there is no gospel in this. In these whole 2 pages, there's not one thing about the coming of the Advent. Jesus Christ's birth. Jesus Christ coming back in the future to come. Nothing. Absolutely zilched. They're repeating the same tactics as they have last year. But if anything, guys, they've got worse. And I'm going to tell you exactly why they got worse. This is the meats and gravy bit, guys. This is where it gets juicy. Right at the end, at the very, very end, it says, P.S. I have enclosed a little card with you so you can return it with your donation so we can give a homeless or a lonely person a Christmas card. It may be the only card they receive. Please write your own message on it if you wish, and thank you once again. Now, if you remember, this is the lovely card they sent us last year, so they were good enough to send everybody a card last year. Not sure how much it cost in print, but I'm sure the fact that their company is a £13.4 billion corporation, that is their assets, 13.4 billion. I'm sure the paper print didn't hurt them. I don't know if you remember these lovely kind letters. No mention of Jesus. No mention of the gospel. No mention of hope and love and joy. That was what they did last year. But they've gone better this year, guys. They want your money to send a Christmas card. Yeah, because that's the condition, guys. You have to pay the minimum, which is £9. Don't pay what you can. There's no widow's mite here. There's no 10p, this is all I can afford. It's £9 or swivel. And you put the £9 with your bank details or a cheque or whatever, any means you can really pay, and you cut that bit out and you put your little message in there. It can be a lovely heartfelt message, but just remember, if you don't put any money in there, that lovely beautiful heartfelt message will not go to the homeless person or the disenfranchised or the impoverished or whatever, the person that needs your help, right? But the condition is you've got to give them money. For what? For a bit of paper? Because this is their Christmas cards, guys. This tack, this is their Christmas card. Or it might be that. At least that's got a church in it. That's what they get. But I don't get it. Because surely a message means more than any bit of money. You know, surely love, compassion, mercy. You know, even if it's a message with a few Bible scriptures in it. Why should we have to pay to send that? I think that's exploitation. I think that's basically saying, yeah, if you want to help these guys out, do so, but you have to pay for it. What, for a 10p print? And what, a postage stamp to send it? Out of the £13.4 billion this company has? You don't think that's a little bit extreme? A little bit harsh? A little bit unwavered? I don't know, guys. It doesn't sit well with me. Tell me what you think. This whole thing is, yeah, it's left a sour taste in my mouth. It's left a very sour taste. I think I'll be putting it back in its envelope and throwing it in the bin. I mean, if you have received anything similar, let me know. Tell me if the name's different or if Dan is going to everybody. I just find it as a coincidence that this guy Dan's a little bit older than me and he's got the same name as me and similar job to me. I just find that a bit weird. But yeah, it's shocking, but I'm not surprised. Remember, this is the Salvation Army. This is a church that don't think sacraments are efficacious or even necessary. Baptism and the Lord's Supper, two things instituted by Christ, two sacraments, yeah, you don't have to do them. A church that also takes money from Freemasons. And how do I know that? Well, I did a little bit of surfing and I checked my local Salvation Army church, which is Teddington Salvation Army Church. And lo and behold, on the Middlesex Freemasonry website, it discloses that they receive money from them. So not only do they get money from us, they get money from the Freemasons. And what a lovely organisation they are. My local one actually received 12,700 from them. And if you Google Teddington Salvation Army, just put Teddington Salvation Army receiving Masonic money, it will come up and it will take you straight to Middlesex Masonic website. And yeah, and they received the money of the tune of 12,700. Blood money. Money from the devil, in my opinion. That just tells you their whole integrity. And it's shocking. And it's just going to get worse if we keep harbouring it and keep giving them our hard-fought cash. So I urge everybody this year not to do so. And completely boycott the Salvation Army. Anyway, that's my 2 pence piece. If you like the video, don't forget to give it a good thumbs up. Share it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And hit the notification bell because I'll be doing many more of these. Take care, guys, and God bless.